Hello my boo friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michael and today I will be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. Now it is almost mid-July, so I'm late to the party as usual, but it is what it is and that's okay. So since I've only read a few books in 2021 and since I'm relatively new to BookTube, I thought, well, you know what? I need some more options, so I'm going to throw in the ones I read from 2020 as well. And that way, I'm not just picking the same book over and over again for these different questions. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. By the way, I'm loving my new shirt. Bigfoot. It says, leave no trace, Great Smoky Mountains. And if you've seen one of my other videos, you will know why. So let's meet the contestants, shall we? In no particular order, we have No Exit by Taylor Adams, Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertelli, I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan, The Best of H.P. Lovecraft by H.P. Lovecraft, Dead Petals by Alan Ianson, Bird Box by Josh Malerman, House of Sighs by Aaron Dries, Undead by Kirsty McKay, What If It's Us by Becky Albertelli and Adam Silvara, Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Caesar, The Invention of Sound by Chuck Palahniuk, Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, The Guest List by Lucy Foley, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, Devolution by Max Brooks, Mallory by Josh Malerman, The Hollow Ones by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan, and finally, The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. So let's jump right into the questions now. I've got my laptop here in front of me, all ready to go, and the first one is, best book you read in 2021. Or in my case, in 2020 or 2021. And that would be Devolution by Max Brooks. Hence the shirt. It's about Bigfoot. Or more importantly, a clan of Bigfoot. This is an epistolary story, meaning it's told in diary form, police interviews, different things like that. I love this book so freaking much. It's very gory in some parts. I like the main character. Her name was Kate. She seemed like a cool kid. So the story takes place in an eco community, a small group of people who are cut off from escape when Mount Rainier erupts. And because of that eruption, it's displaced a clan of Bigfoot creatures who move in their direction. Things get a little hairy. And carnage candy ensues. So, if you're into creature features, if you like Bigfoot, I definitely recommend this one. Devolution by Max Brooks. Question 2. Best sequel you've read in 2021. Now, I'm not much of a sequel or series reader. Much rather just read one and be done with it. But I did read one sequel this year, and so by default it wins, and that's going to be Mallory by Josh Malerman. Now this is more of a thriller than a horror story like Bird Box was. And it continues the story of Mallory and her 2 children as they struggle to once again survive the threat of monsters you can't look at. So, it was okay. It's kind of slow, kind of unnecessary, but if you're a fan of Bird Box and you just have to check it out, then by all means, go for it. Just don't expect it to live up to its predecessor. So question 3 is, a new release you haven't read yet but want to. Well, I've not bought the first 2021 book yet, so there are plenty. I have a list going and it includes 31 books, horror and thrillers, young adults. And I hope to get to some of those At some point, I think I probably should just do a video about all the ones I want to read, and you tell me which ones I should read, and we'll go from there. But I did want to pick 3 off just randomly on the list, and the first one is going to be Shudder by Melissa Larson. Now, this is a story about a girl who, after the death of her father, pushes everyone away from her and heads out of town to start a new life. And once she gets to a town in upstate New York, she meets this movie director, and he's gonna put her in a movie. She's gonna be the lead. And she's gonna live on an isolated island with a group of 5 crew, and things start getting a little creepy when it comes to the director. I'm not sure exactly what happens, but I can't wait to find out. Shudder. So the second one on here that I would like to read is Till We Become Monsters by Amanda Headley. Now, this is a story about a young boy who is convinced monsters are real, and that's because of his grandmother. Well, when she dies, he blames his older brother and tries to kill him. Well, a lot of years pass, and he realizes his brother's not a monster. And so he and his brother and their father and a group of friends go out for a hike, and they are soon derailed, and they never make it to their destination. And of course they get separated, and they run into a creature. Sounds spooky. I'm all about the mysterious, isolated hiker trope, as you well know. So I'm looking forward to reading that one, Till We Become Monsters. And the third one I'm really looking forward to reading is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Now, I read my first Grady Hendrix novel earlier this year, and that was The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which was a good story. It was good enough. I did have some issues with it, and if you've seen my 2020 wrap-up where I talk about this, you will know why. So I'm going to give Mr. Hendrix another try, because the Final Girl Support Group sounds really interesting. It's actually a concept I had thought about a year or 2 ago, as I am a writer, but I never got around to fleshing it out. It's just kind of been in the back drawer, you know. So I'm looking forward to reading Grady's take on the matter. So it's a story about a group of girls who have been meeting in a support group, and they have all survived their own slasher ordeals. They were the final girls. Well, somebody knows about this support group now. They're coming for them. They're gonna take them out one way or the other. Will there only be one last final girl left? I don't know, but I'm looking forward to reading it. And on a side note, I recently found out that Adrienne King, who played Alice in the first 2 Friday the 13th movies, narrates the audiobook, which is fabulous. It's so awesome. I would love to check that out. So just a little tidbit for my little boo friends. The Final Girl Support Group. Let's check it out. So question 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Well, like I said, I've not gotten any books this year, but I wanted to throw 3 in that I would like to read. The first one is, of course, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is another take on slashers, from what I gather. It's about a girl who loves horror movies, and she turns to them in times of crisis. But when things start happening in real life, it's up to her to figure out how to end it. So, that's all I really know. That's all I need to know. My Heart is a Chainsaw. The next one I'd really love to check out is Getaway by Zoe Stage. This is another one of those, oh, let's go hiking, and we're gonna take our friends, and we're gonna get lost. This one takes place in the Grand Canyon though, so that's pretty cool. But of course, they run across something else that's stalking them. Wonder if it's another monster. Maybe some psychopath. I don't know. But you know I'm here for it. Get away. And the third one I'm really looking forward to reading is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. Now you know her as the author of The Return, which has gotten a lot of heat. And I do have The Return, but I have not read it yet. Because you know I gotta check it out for myself. Now Cackle is about a woman who befriends this eccentric girl. They become fast friends. She just is fascinated by this woman who happens to have a mansion in the middle of the woods. And people are scared of her because she might be a witch. And something about spiders too. Ooh, you know I'm not a fan of spiders. But yeah, love the cover too. I mean, look at that. Gorgeous. Cackle. So question 5 is biggest disappointment of the year, and I have 2 that I'm going to mention here. The first one is House of Sighs by Aaron Dries. This had a really good concept about a woman who goes off the rails. She's a bus driver, and she ends up kidnapping some passengers and takes them to her home where her parents and equally deranged brother live. I was really looking forward to reading it, but I really didn't like it at all. The writing was not that great, I hate to say. There was a lot of head hopping in scenes, and I wasn't even sure who the main character was supposed to be. It was kind of all over the place. So, House of Sighs, I would not recommend. I love the cover. And then the second disappointing story for the year for me is The Invention of Sound by Chuck Palahniuk. This is my first time reading Chuck Palahniuk, and I have to say I'm not a fan. His writing was weird. The characters were awful. Like, you're supposed to be like on board with at least one of them, right? This was a story about a guy who was searching for his daughter. She's been missing for 17 years. And then it jumps to a different point of view, who is this girl that's a producer in Hollywood, and she creates these sounds that are so realistic, you would swear they were real. Yeah, didn't like one thing about this story. Didn't even have chapter breaks. It was broken up in into 2 parts. And yeah, not a Chuck Palahniuk fan apparently. I will not read anything else he has to say. Anything else of his, so yeah. So question 6 is biggest surprise of the year. I'm going to pick 2 for this one, and the first one is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I was pleasantly surprised with this one. It's a story about a girl in 2017 who goes to New York to the town of Fell, where the Sundown Motel is, because that's where her aunt Viv disappeared from in 1982. Now, I'm much more into horror than thriller, but this was a pretty good paranormal thriller, so it had a little bit of both in it. I really didn't get bored with this at all, which was good. I was kind of worried about that. But yeah, the characters were interesting, the plot was pretty cool, and yeah, it's a haunted motel. We love to be haunted, right? So that was a really good surprise, Sundown Motel. So the second one I was surprised about was Undead by Kirsty McKay. This is a story about zombies. We all love zombie stories, right? It's about this high school trip in overseas somewhere. Not exactly sure now. But they stop at this restaurant in the middle of nowhere because you gotta eat. And something happens and most of them end up dead and coming back to life. From what I remember, because I did read this late last year, it wasn't all that gory. I think it did have some pretty good kills in it. So yeah, I know there's a sequel called Unfed, but I probably won't be searching that one out. But it was pretty good as a one and done. Undead. So question 7 is, favorite new author, debut or new to you? Well, let's just go ahead and say that Stephen King will always be my favorite. I mean, he's the king, right? So one might expect me to say somebody like Grady Hendrix or Stephen Graham Jones. But the first one I'm going to say is Max Brooks, because I love Devolution so much. And he is also the author of World War Z, which I would love to read that as well, because I enjoyed the movie. And I'm not exactly sure what all he has written. Maybe that's the only two, I don't even know. I don't think as much, but yeah, I definitely would like to read more from him. And the second author I'm going to throw in there is Silvia Moreno Garcia, because Mexican Gothic was awesome. It was slow, I've never read a Gothic story before, but her writing was so rich. It was pretty amazing, honestly. So if you've not read it, I highly recommend that. So question 8 is newest fictional crush. Well, I don't crush on characters, so I thought I'm going to make my own question for this one. So, and since it's my channel, I'm going to. So question 8 for me is best horror creature or villain. Now there are plenty from which to choose, but I'm going to go with the creatures from Bird Box. Now, I mean, what's more terrifying than creatures you can't even look at without going insane and killing yourself? I mean, you can't even devise a plan to defeat these things. So, yeah. Bird Box creatures are definitely at the top of the scary list. So question 9 is newest favorite character. Now, I thought about changing this question too, but, well, let's just go with it. And I'm going to go with Darby Thorne from No Exit. She was pretty relatable. She's a young college student on her way home to see her mother who is sick in the hospital, and she gets stranded in the mountains in a snowstorm. She comes across a rest stop, so she stops. She meets a group of people. She goes outside to try to get cell phone reception. Of course she can't, and that's when she sees a young girl in a cage in the back of a van. So it's up to Darby to figure out who's the kidnapper and how to rescue this girl. Now, Darby did make a few mistakes, but I really enjoyed this story and I really enjoyed her character. So that is my number 9 newest favorite character. Question 10 is name a book that made you cry. I'm not much of a crier, but there are 2 that got me pretty good. The first one is Dead Petals by Alan Ianson. Now this is an independently published author. I've spoken to him a few times. He's really cool. It's a story about a family whose daughter goes missing. They try to find her, but they're not sure how to go about that. About halfway through the story, it turns into a paranormal story. And that's all I'm going to say. And by the way, it's a really pretty cover. Dead Petals. Made me teary. But the one that really got to me and made me freaking boo-hoo my eyes out was What If It's Us by Becky Albertelli and Adam Savara. This was such a good story. It's about 2 young gay men that run across each other in the big city of New York. And they get separated before they can exchange numbers. And it spends a little time with them going back and forth trying to find each other. And they eventually do. They have a few mishaps, but I'm really not going to say anything else about it. It's such a sweet story. It's about young, first gay love. So touching. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it. And I hear there's a sequel coming out, and I will definitely be getting that one too. I just hope it doesn't make me lose my shit again. But then again, I kind of hope it does. What if it's us? So question 11, name a book that made you happy. Well, it's kind of hard to find happiness in the books I read, but I'm just going to go with I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan. And what made me happy about this was just actually reading the story from which the movie came from. Granted, there are no killer fishermen in the book. This is a young adult thriller novel. Has little to nothing to do with the movie. And that's okay. I was still happy to read it because I've always wanted to read it. However, this version is a revised version that was updated to bring it into modern times, and it just didn't really work for me. I would still love to read the original version of this, but it made me happy enough. Yeah, I know what you did last summer. So number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. And for me, it's a no-brainer. That would be Mexican Gothic. I mean, just look at that cover. She's so pretty. It's flawless. Yes. I think we all know what this is about. It's about a girl who goes to check on her cousin on the outskirts of Mexico City somewhere. And it's a typical Gothic story, which I've never read. I didn't know what to expect, but it was really good. It was a little slow, but aren't most books in the beginning? You know, you just go with it. If you hold on until the end, it gets really good. But as far as beauty, as far as covers go, boom, you can't beat that. Gorgeous, darling. So finally we have number 13. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Again, there are so many, so I'm going to just pick 3. The first one is Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. It's about an otherworldly woman who is a healer, and she heals these people in a village. But then she meets Samson, who is a cure. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but her father forbids their relationship. And soon Ada discovers there's something wrong with Samson. Something she's not even sure that she can cure. Sounds really interesting and unlike anything else that I have planned to read, so looking forward to reading that one. Also, I'm really looking forward to reading Don't Move by James S. Murray and Darren Wehrmouth. And it's a story about a group of people who go into the woods, of course. You know I'm all about it. And they run across, I'm thinking, a giant spider. Probably a million other little ones too. So I'm going to save that one for October because it looks and sounds really spooky. And another book I'm really looking forward to reading is called On Sundays She Picked Flowers by Yaya Schofield. I don't think this is exactly a horror or a thriller. It's about a woman who finally escapes from her mother to get out on her own, and she meets this woman, and there's something in the woods. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to finding out. But again, it's another pretty cover. All about pretty covers. So that's it. That's my big mid-year freak out tag. I keep wanting to say tour. Not on tour here. But if you made it this far, I just want to thank you for sticking around and supporting me, listening to me ramble on and on about these books. Don't forget to hit subscribe, murder that like button, comment down below and let me know what your favorite book of 2021 has been so far. What's your least favorite? What are you looking forward to reading? I want to connect with you guys. Just be sure to hit me up. And until next time, keep turning those pages. Bye.